Do you have an all-star HR team? You may feel your team is already performing at a high level, but let's take a closer look. Would your company's top leaders and employees agree that your HR team are operating at a high level? Are team members able to influence top executives on difficult topics? Are team members' business and strategy focused on the challenges the organization is facing? Does the executive team trust your direct reports as advisors on human capital issues? If you can answer yes to these questions, you have built an outstanding team. If you feel there is room for improvement, Strategy Focused Group can create a custom development program to elevate the quality of your HR team. We use HCI certification programs as well as non-certified HRBP MBA Masterclass to give your team a laser focus on the business and strategy. Please email us at info@strategyfocusedgroup.com.
Identify and book the world's best speakers for your next event. MENA Speakers is the leading speakers and MC bureau in the Middle East. We bring global talent to the region and have established the region as a key global hub for speakers. Inspire and motivate your audience. Find exactly what you are looking for by working closely with us to assist you in understanding the cost-benefit analysis tied to selecting a speaker for any event. Ensure that your audience is educated, engaged, and empowered. Connect with us for a quick response and tailored advice. Book your speakers now.
Good morning, good evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. If it's Friday, it's the CEO series where we bring together entrepreneurs, global leaders, disruptors, innovators. And our guest today is Yulia Stark, president of the European Women's Association, based in Brussels, although she's now in Portugal, such a world traveler. International keynote speaker, board member, serial entrepreneur, ex-investment banker, international TEDx speaker, author, and passionate serial entrepreneur. She's worked with biggest brands such as Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Deloitte, and many more. Welcome, Yulia, from Portugal.
Thank you so much, Ron. I'm happy to be here and see you again.
Yes.
As we were just discussing, like we've met each other live, I think the first time in person in Dubai quite recently.
A couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago at the conference where you gave that amazing speech.
Oh, thank you so much. Coming that from you, that means a lot.
Amazing panel. So it was cool. It was cool. So I'm glad to have you as a guest, and I'm glad you were able to squeeze us in your busy schedule, because you left Dubai, and I think you went straight to Portugal, or did you go back to Brussels and then go to Portugal?
Yeah. I flew in. We were opening our office in Bucharest in Romania after Dubai, and then I went home to Brussels, now in Portugal, and next week in Sofia, Bulgaria. Yeah, it's
such a great life.
Well, it is sometimes. I was saying, like, my husband does not agree, but I'm trying to sell him that story, like, it's needed, darling, it's needed. We need to be there.
I'm doing great work across the globe.
Yeah.
Tell the audience about the European Women's Association.
Well, our main, a few years ago when COVID happened, a lot of business organizations and their members got lost because we were all isolated. We couldn't do much. And many of our business community members, female founders, they ask for introductions to potential clients, sponsors, government, European Commission, you name it. And we realized there is no central platform that unites different key stakeholders like government, investors, other entrepreneurs, but also other countries at one place. So this is how European Women Association went through a normal accelerated program in Europe into a global platform for these key stakeholders, giving the possibility for our entrepreneurs to access easier new markets, new investment opportunities and stuff. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. So when I read your bio, it says serial entrepreneur. That's an entrepreneurial mindset to think that we need to have connecting points and bring all of these people together, because everyone is yearning for connectivity and all of those kinds of approaches. So How long has the EWA been in existence?
Well, we've been around since 2013, but under another, I would say, brand. It was under FAP Academy, the accelerator program in Belgium. And we grew organically, and we've been a bit spoiled, I think, by the markets. We got some funding from our Flemish government, and we grew organically by doing a lot of offline events and conferences. And so that connects people, and that builds trust, and that's how our members could scale and grow the businesses through the ecosystem. Okay. So we didn't do much for it. We just brought amazing people together. That's it. But it's only in the pandemic that we realized we'll have to do a bit more. And we changed the concept into more digital one, where we would do the monthly matchmaking sessions. And only for those who are mature enough, we will then take into another country. So it has changed a few years ago a bit. And we went into non-profit as well, because I've learned my lesson that entering a new market as a European Women Association, that's a non-profit organization, opened for us more opportunities and doors rather than a commercial organization. So that's one of the lessons learned, I would say.
Yeah, lessons learned. So you said matchmaking, in other words, connecting people, you may need this.
People.
Yeah, we can connect.
Yeah, people. It's always, it could be also investors. Most of the time, my time goes to matching projects to investors. Like this morning, we had a few calls with an amazing company in Bucharest who is now fundraising 15 million euros. It's a Series B, and they're looking for an expert, an investor in blockchain. So this is our task. We have a large community of investors to find the right match, to bring them together, and they will be meeting each other very soon. So fingers crossed.
Okay. Matchmaking, bringing them together. So European Women's Association, but you gave a speech. You recently spoke in the UAE. I think it was Dubai, was it, or Abu Dhabi? Dubai. So are we moving beyond European, and we're moving more of a global kind of approach now?
Yes, you're right. So we started in Europe, Western Europe, in Brussels, and we realized that the opportunities are, well, I'm not sure if Europe would like to hear that, but the economical opportunities and the growth lies outside of Western Europe. Yeah. So a lot of Belgian companies cannot really scale in Europe. There are too many different, I would say, legislation, languages, barriers, and cultural differences. So often many of them go to US. And UAE was actually, it was an initiative from Abu Dhabi. They reached out to us a few years ago saying, listen, we would like to improve our reputation when it comes to women in business, because it's unknown how innovative we are, how equal we are. And we are the only country, probably globally, one of the few that has the best statistics when it comes to gender equality, which I didn't know about. So this is how it all started. We went there, we went to the expo, and we realized, oh my gosh, there is so much more out there, so many opportunities. So why not bringing that European talent, expertise to other countries which are larger? I'm not saying UAE is large, but through UAE, you can go to Africa, Asia, Saudi. Yeah. So this is one of the approaches we have right now.
That was going to be my next question, was because Saudi is ripe for this kind of opportunity. You have I lived in Saudi for a year and a half. I lived in Riyadh for a year and a half. And there's such a thirst for women entrepreneurs coming up, getting out of school. There's schools all over the world, and they're coming back and they're looking for something to do. They have ideas. Perfect opportunity.
For sure. And so we went there. I was, I think, a speaker there in Riyadh in February. There's an amazing event, LEAP conference, organized by the government. I think it's Ministry of Communication Technology. And I've met these amazing women. And I should say, maybe I didn't see the real picture of women in Riyadh, because I was there with somebody from the royal family. So I had the opportunity to visit some houses and entrepreneurs, or those who are just having a lot of, like my husband calls it, expensive hobbies. So it doesn't have to bring in a lot of money, but they are busy and they are curious. And I think, yes, in Saudi, it's a booming market. I think if you will compare it with UAE, Saudis won't like it, maybe. I'm me saying that, but it's like Dubai 20 years ago. So this is a land of opportunities. There are a few differences. Culturally, I think it's more challenging. Language-wise, it's challenging. So we're not there yet. We are exploring. We'll be visiting in October again
Really?
to
Okay.
see with the Ministry of Communication if we can launch a project for their women in leadership roles, and set up a few programs just to test the waters.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? Saudi is a different market because that was a good comparison you made 20 years ago. Because, when I lived there, it was kind of structured. It was very structured and completely open. I was back there for business and I was there for a couple of weeks. And I just noticed things that were different. I won't go into it, but I noticed it was different. And I said, this is a ripe opportunity. So all my friends are there. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. And they're telling me, Ron, Dubai, you got to come to Saudi. You got to. I said, well, yeah, I've done that. So let me kind of do a commute thing to go back and forth. I've worked out of all of the cities there, working on a project now that I will be there for a couple of weeks. I don't know the date yet because we had a cancellation and whatnot. But you're right; it is ripe for an opportunity, specifically for women.
Yeah, and they are really pushing it forward by putting women, not always forcing, but they really push them to take these leadership roles. And I'm not always sure if they want that, if they're ready for that. So it's a different conversation than the ones we have in Europe.
Yeah, well, see, that would be a side conversation. We don't want to go into that.
No. Listen, don't. It can be very tricky.
Yeah. So we met, although you were scheduled for the show, and I didn't when you were sitting on the stage, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know this, and you
were smiling at me, who is that guy? You were sitting in the VIP zone. I remember.
Yeah.
Between one of the few guys in the suit, the rest was all in Kandura, and you were sitting there so relaxed, waving at me, who the heck is that guy? So I'm waving back, and then only later realized, oh my gosh, that's from the CEO series.
Exactly. So what panel was that you spoke from?
So they asked me to speak about how to raise more unicorns in UAE, and then I gave it a more twist to how to attract also female talents and raise more unicorns, and being more diverse.
Okay. So how do you make a switch from a private banker in that so-called aura, and now you're about empowerment? That's a leap.
Well, it's not as big as you would think, because I used to be the youngest and the only girl in the team of our private bankers. So I always felt like I have to man up. I have to be one of the guys. So my colleagues were 50 plus white guys in Brussels. So, and then I worked in Geneva and in Luxembourg from the same bank. And it's actually the financial crisis that pushed me to open my own company. So in 2008 crisis, you remember, we had the crisis. And then I remember my CEO at that time, Stefan Richter was his name. And Stefan told me, Yulia, during the evaluation talk, you have the greatest numbers, you're doing great, but you're a terrible employee. I was why? I'm actually one of the best here. He said, no, you don't listen. You have your opinion. I tell you to promote that. You don't promote. And I always felt like I had to listen to my client, not to my bank, my management. Yeah. So that it's not that good. I think now I realize having employees, that's pain in the ass. But actually, I followed his advice when our bank was sold in 2009 to another bank, to Crédit Agricole. When it was sold, I was okay, I've got 1 year of luxury to experiment. And this is when I set up my first company called Business Bridge, which still exists, from the idea connecting opportunities between West and Eastern Europe. That was the first initial idea. But then I realized, I wasn't focusing on women. It's only there I realized it's quite hard to be a woman, to be a mother, because I had a baby, and to have a big ambitious dreams, and how to make it. So I felt I needed a support system. That's why I went into this kind of organizing business trips for women. And that led to so many other things, and now EVA.
Wow. So So that boss, you said, thank you, boss, for giving me this new direction. Yeah, for doing that.
I do. I met him 10 years later
Yeah.
in a yacht club in Belgium. And he's
Okay.
like, Yulia. And I remember he has this big yacht and he's like always like showing off with
Yeah.
it. And it's
A
like, Yulia,
real
whoa.
big shot, right? With his big yacht.
And yes, he is.
Know the
And
type.
he told me, yeah, look, you should come back in Luxembourg. I'm offering you an opportunity. I was like, I don't think I'm coming back to be an employee in general. It has nothing to do with banking. But it's rather, I still love, by the way, money. I love investment. I still follow the opportunities up. And I do advise a few families on their investment strategy. But it's from another role, much more freer than before.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does this tie into what you're doing there? So in an advisory role from the European Women's Association, you're walking them through with your banking knowledge and you're bringing that to bear on the situation.
Yes, I do. And so, and in the end, it was a great investment of my time and knowledge in the past, being one of the bankers. It's just now I've got more freedom. And I read so much research on why you should do gender lens investments, why you should approach your investment strategy from an SDG goal. And the ROI, it shows better. Like any investor investing in diverse teams, and I'm not only speaking by gender, but also background, color, religion, that all adds to a better results of a company. So I'm like promoting everywhere I go, like, guys, please invest more in female founders. And we need more female investors out there, because we've seen men tend to invest in men and women more in women. So it's like this, finding that balance, and I love it.
That was great that you were able to look to see that we needed to bring more people in, even as you related to, female investors, build female members of your team, and drive it forward. So what you're saying is that I heard you mention a better result. It's a better result if we have a more diverse team. So DEI is huge today. And I think my version of it is a lot of times people are just putting out statements.
Yeah.
Give us the business case. You being a banker, you being a business person first. The business case around females, DEI, how does all that tie in for a C-suite, for them to understand the importance of this?
I'll give you an example. If we have fund managers, female, they tend to outperform around 7% male teams when it comes to result at the end of the year. When it comes to investment, for every dollar as an investor that invests in diverse teams, the diverse teams with women get to earn 78 cents per dollar invested, where men is 32, just an example. So it's almost double that you are getting back. Women tend to exit more. So in the beginning, female founders don't take many risks. That's known. They're more risk averse. They're like more cautious with the investment. But that often leads that they don't burn money that fast, and they exit 9% more than men within the first 5 years of the set of the company.
Wow.
So this is fact. It's you can find all this data. It's done by Goldman Sachs and by Morgan Stanley, if I'm not mistaken. So there are few datas that just show investing in women is better. And being in Europe, like we had this conversation before, green. It's not only greenwashing that we are speaking here about. The women tend to create solutions that are more sustainable, or better for the environment, for the children. So they think long term, and this is why our society needs solutions that are long term, that are not only revenue driven. So it's not only from the ROI perspective, I'm like preaching invest more in women, but also from sustainability perspective. And every family office that I know in Europe, they push investors and bankers to go through and watch through this, SDG approach, and not only ROI as a result.
That should make the business case. I mean, if the numbers, you have an evidence-based approach, here's the evidence behind it. But in a lot of cases, the C-suite is from, as you talked about your boss, a different DNA, older, more tenure in the business, and they're not understanding the new impact that all of the new type people that are coming into the business.
Yeah, and it's like unconscious bias. Like they can't help it. Men invest in men or in solutions that are for men. So that's normal. Like women tend to invest more in women, in beauty products, in children and care products, in educational programs. It's something unconscious that we're doing. So that's why we need the diversity. And I'm not saying invest only in women. No, no. We need to mix that things up, and then you'll have different approach to your investment strategy if you are an investor. So then you'll see it from different perspectives. And at the end, guys, just don't forget, we are 50% of the population. I mean, women. The consumers, like 78% of the consuming decisions are made by women. And they are not in this scope, So a lot of solutions are created in technology still by men for women. So there is a gap. And that's what I'm preaching for. We have a project with the European Commission now for the next 3 years, where we'll be looking deeper into how can we get more women in technology, younger women, girls in STEM, because they are an important part of this decision process and creation process.
So let's talk about mindset. It's hard enough being an entrepreneur. If you're a serial entrepreneur as yourself, you know that, sometimes you lay in the bed at night, you look at the ceiling and 1,001 things run through your mind, but you got to get up the next day and go do what you got to do. So we all know that as entrepreneurs. Is it different for women, the confidence level? Because maybe you've been raised in an environment where you may have been viewed as not fully as the other gender. Confidence, the ability to think it through. Can you give us some insight on that?
Recently, Deloitte asked me to do a workshop on confidence for here in Brussels. So I was working on this content, like how do I approach it without generalizing too much. It is a fact that we women tend to ask for not enough. Like when it comes to funding, for example, we don't scream hard enough, we don't promote hard enough ourselves. So there's a lot of like this kind of imposter syndrome out there. It's a fact. So we even I maybe wouldn't think I have it, but I was actually, my mom raised me well, so she brainwashed me every morning like I can achieve anything I want.
Yeah.
But it's not the case with all girls. And then one of the amazing programs that helped me to create that workshop, I was actually inspired by Google program and that I used to run here in Brussels. It's called I Am Remarkable. And that it's a free workshop. I think most of people can attend at Google, online, offline, in companies. And there are so many facts behind this workshop. That's why I love it. Showing why we don't promote ourselves or we are not getting promoted. It shares with us how to be better. And I remember one of the biggest sentences that stood by me from that workshop was, it's not bragging if it's a fact.
Yeah.
So if you are amazing in what you do and you build something unique, well, speak up. And this is something we need to learn as women to promote ourselves more. And it's sometimes culturally based as well. So some cultures are much more open than others, but women tend to make themselves smaller when they are surrounded by confident, strong men with amazing ideas. So that's something will be 14th of June, we'll have that workshop here in Brussels.
Oh, wow.
And it's needed. This is a factor on we don't speak up enough. And for example, I'm paid to speak. This is my job.
Yeah.
And what I do, if I have the opportunity, I always bring along other women to make them speak. And they hate that, by the way. Most of them like, no way, I'm okay. I'll record a video. Like, I'm not going live. I'm not going on stage. So you see, even among amazing, successful women, they don't like me dragging them everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that comes back from, as you said, it's fact. If you have facts to back it up, you're great because I have the facts to back it up. But men, women, I think women tend to, if I'm speaking, I'm bragging or something like that.
Yeah.
Let me give you a perfect example. A young lady I met in Hong Kong maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and she was in one of my sessions, and she was amazing in the session. She was presenting, she was leading the discussions, and I'm thinking, this young lady is really has a lot of potential, and she's going to do well. So we kept in touch, and she was struggling, and I see this morning that she was just promoted to the regional head of human resources in Asia for her company. And I sent her a note and told her, I said, you have no idea how big my smile is when I read this. And one of the things she told me, she says, thank you for always having confidence in me. I said, and I told her, I had confidence in you because you had exhibited excellence.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I have confidence in you? I told you that all of this would eventually happen. So the next question was, I need to get you on the speaker's circuit. I need you to get out there and talk more. Talk more about your transition as a female to a regional leader. Tell your story because you will inspire others. And I'm sure when I get the response back, it's going to, maybe not. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who am I to share? It's not that special.
Yeah. And her name is Lynn Chong. So, Lynn, I'm going to send you a copy of this because I think you are amazing, and congratulations for making this big move. And your
It is. We need to have more ladies like Lynn because you need to show up. I think that's already a lot. You need to show up and be in these panels, be at the stages, have your own show. And it's not bragging because, again, if you don't want to do it for you, do it for others. Because other girls, women will feel like, wow, she did it. Like maybe I can do that as well. Yeah. I've been mentoring since 2013, like I think a few thousand women by now. And the stories I still get on, it's goosebumps. It's worth it. Whatever, this is why we do it at the end, because you do make a difference and people do remember. And that's mind blowing.
Well, it's amazing being a mentor because, like you said, these stories you get, and people say, oh, thank you for always being there and all of these kinds of things. And I can look back on so many people that I've noticed that had so much potential, but the confidence wasn't there.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I took on with them to say, let's talk about this because let's talk about all these things. So and I'm sure you face this too, when you're mentoring people, the mindset is for them to think that they can do it. Now, they could have risen all the way, but there's still that doubt.
Agree. And it's with men and women. Yes, I do work mainly with women. And I've seen, regardless the country we are, it's the same challenge. I can be, in UAE, I can be in India. Oh, when it comes to confidence, there is one quote that changed my perception to confidence forever. I was invited just, I think, 2019, pre-COVID, to speak in New Delhi, in India, at a conference about, I don't remember, some kind of business conference. So it was quite big and beautiful hotel and a lot of beautiful people as well with these fancy saris, many locals. And one of the ladies, I remember old lady coming on the stage, a beautiful orange sari. She was tiny, very tiny, small old lady. And she takes the mic because the question was about confidence. And she said, dear ladies in the room, I'm speaking to you right now. Do not forget, you are the 50% of the world population. And the other one you gave birth to. And she left the stage. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so true. Cannot swear here, right? So you please remember, you are the 50%, but the other one you gave birth to. So you have so much creation opportunity, and we just have to show up, Ron. And I think that's what you're doing here, giving stage to stories. That's amazing. And I encourage you to invite more women. I'm happy to send amazing women to your way. So that can be shared, because that's what you do is important.
It's funny you mentioned that because we're now working on the schedule for third quarter, and the vast majority of people are women. I just find women's stories are so more intriguing, talking to men, because a lot of the bravado is coming through.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to talk about the struggling, that maybe struggle and were able to turn it around. What was the key connecting point that caused them to be able to turn it around? That was interesting, more so than someone that kept moving up a so-called ladder because of a lot of reasons. Yeah.
And it's often BS, with all due respect, because it's not just climbing up the ladder. It's not the reality. Reality is it's struggle, it's failure most of the time. Yeah. And then, you can maybe check my LinkedIn. It looks amazing, or Instagram. But in the reality, there is freaking hard work behind it. And it's not as sexy as it looks. Like maybe I'm like traveling all the time. But, I miss my kids. I've got 3 now. I adopted a daughter from my brother. Like I've got 3 kids at home, like wondering, where is my mom? So it's not as sexy. So you have to like also be honest about the reality behind entrepreneurship, and especially serial entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, one of the key points you mentioned earlier was the struggle of being an entrepreneur, because people see, as you said, this so-called iceberg. They see the big iceberg. They have no idea what goes on under that, the sleepless nights and how you're trying to do this. This one didn't pay you on time, and all these kind of minutiae that goes through to prop up this visual that doing all these big things.
No, like literally, when I was on my flight yesterday, the first June I arrived here in Porto. In the airport, I get a message from one of our main sponsors, like it's a year sponsor, saying, some kind of whatever restructuring, they will not be able to prolong the contract. And I was like, what the heck? Like we built all our like events on it. We've got a team that needs to be paid. And that all just collapses. I was freaking out at the airport. And then I was like, I was drawing like mind maps, trying who is out there, how can we replace this sponsor? I think we got it, but I'm not sure. Yeah. But still, like few nights I didn't sleep. I had to pay salaries. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's really not fun.
I always tell people, I said, welcome to the club.
Yes. It's like always, often surviving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Glad to have you as a member, because it is tough. So I flew back in November. I flew from Dubai to New York to work on a project. So I'm waiting for this big project to come through. As soon as I land, I turn my phone on and there's an email from this particular client. So I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. This is a great way to land in New York, all these things. And the client said, we reviewed everything and we decided to put everything on hold. We won't be moving forward with this. And I'm thinking, when you see that, you have other things built under that.
Yeah.
You're putting together the pieces, the structure to make sure it works. And I was left cold. And I said, well, you know what? I've got to figure out. I've been doing this long enough to know you just got to figure it out. There's nobody to go to. That's going to.
It's you.
It's me.
It's always you, and that's why I think sometimes it's quite lonely. I feel like, to be completely honest with you, there are so many people that are within my inner circle that depend on me, that I just sometimes want to like hide and not come out as like I'm not there. I'm like, I don't care anymore. But this is like, there's the feeling of responsibility is big. Yeah. It's really big. Yeah. So that's not a nice feeling. But then you compare to maybe the freedom and the impact you create. And in my case, the people I meet, like I've met you, now I just had a lunch with the ambassador of Congo here in Portugal. He's such a gentle, intelligent Zen master. Like you sit near him and you're like completely okay. Like you forget your sponsor that disappeared. Like everything is fine. And the conversation, the depth of the conversations are so amazing. So I think, okay, it's still worth it.
Yeah, it is. It is. So we're going to take a break now, and we'll come back in just a minute or so.
Sure. See you later.
Good. Cool.
Is this all there is? Working hard, paying bills, stuck in a rat race, long days, traffic jam, passionless relationships, superficial communications, feeling guilty, making choices between career, family, or even yourself. Emptiness. But deep inside, you feel there's more to life. You have hunger for more. What if you could have it all? Having a successful and thriving business, contributing to society in a meaningful way, being financially independent. Imagine the impact that discovering your life purpose will have. Imagine having a vision and keeping a clear focus. Imagine living in a mental and physical state of abundance, transcending the business of life. Imagine being in a loving and passionate relationship where respect and connection are fundamental.
Imagine being self-confident, radiating joy and happiness, and living a life by your own rules and conditions. Imagine living fully. Imagine tapping into your full potential as a woman, besides being an amazing mother, wife, daughter, and a friend. Imagine embodying your true feminine essence, tapping into your full potential, surrendering to the flow, achieving more, doing less but doing it more consciously. Imagine being connected to like-minded women worldwide and to feel their friendship, love, and support. Imagine all the limitless possibilities. Imagine no more. Join our tribe. This is our promise.
I love that video.
Actually, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, that's so empowering, to see that. I really love that. Yeah, cool.
The thing is about at the end, if you really look holistically on it, it's not really about the business. It's about everything. Like we want to have everything, right? Like great relationships, free time, money, impact, fulfillment. I think that's the challenge for all of us in this lifetime. Find that sweet spot where all of that comes together.
So as a child coming up, did you have these kinds of dreams?
What kind of dreams?
Dreams as to where you are now. Was this in the plan as high school, college? This is what I'm going to do. We talk about this future state, and sometimes it's 180 degrees different from what we thought.
Well, completely. I remember, I grew up in Soviet Union. So I was born in Soviet Union and I moved to Belgium when I was 6 years old. So the first 6 years of my life, I was dreaming about having a Barbie. And it was forbidden. We had no import from US. So you could only dream about. So my only and biggest dream was when I'll grow up, I will have a Barbie. And I remember promising my best friend Natalia, and if you're a good friend of mine, you'll get one too. And my mom told me but you cannot have a Barbie, not in this country. And my mom didn't love Soviet Union, so she dreamed of moving one day. And I said, Mom, then we'll have to move so I can get a Barbie. She says, yes, we will. So when the Soviet Union fell apart, we arrived in Germany as the first stop. And this is where I got my first Barbie. And then my mom asked me, what's next step? Who do you want to be? I say, Mom, I want to be a world citizen. I want to have a passport that allows me to travel everywhere and do whatever I want. And this is something for most people in Europe or in US, it's maybe not easy to understand, but having a passport, I have a Belgian passport, that opens so many opportunities and doors, and being free, not needing a visa, and being respected just because of that little paper, that was crazy. So I wanted to be a world citizen. Did not expect to do something with women, for women, but I knew I'm not made for 9-to-5 job. Quite soon in the college, and my mom as an entrepreneurial lady always told me you can do it, although I didn't know how. That support really matters at home.
Yeah, it does. So my situation was almost the same because my father was an entrepreneur. He owned a couple of businesses. So I saw from that side, I don't need to really do the job thing, but his thinking in so-called guiding me was to get a job in a good company, work there for 20 years, 30 years, and retire. I'm like, I don't think so.
Gosh.
Did not appeal to me.
But he was this entrepreneur himself, but probably he knew how hard it is.
Yeah, but back during that time, it was simple. He owned a taxi company and he owned real estate, those kinds of things. So it was cool. I mean, it provided a good life. But what I picked up from that was that you can do what he does and lead a good life, or I can go get a job and I can do what I got to do. But that seemed to be you're on your own. You start when you want, you quit when you want, and you can kind of choose your own directions because corporate life is a lot, and specifically post-COVID. Corporate life. And I think that's driven a lot of people during COVID to think about what is next. Do I do this for the next 15 years or whatever it is? maybe I do something now. And so when they talk about the great resignation, I think a lot of that is driven from the fact that people had time to think about this thing I do every day. Do I really want to do this for the rest of my life?
Agree. And this is the thing. I think that last year so every year I take up 10 clients max for private mentoring. Okay. And often they're quite achieved women. They are often from corporates, sitting in that golden cage or in European Parliament or Commission.
I love that golden cage. Ooh.
Yeah, so it's scary to leave it, especially when you're 40 plus and like, oh gosh, like where do I go? So having this kind of mentoring sessions, feed me for sure, but 2/3 of them did not go back to their golden cage. So I'm not saying it's easy now. I'm not saying they're free and do whatever they want. They still have to work hard, but they love it. They really love it. They don't feel it's like working.
Yeah. Well, you know, entrepreneur, it's a different kind of mindset and challenge that you're dealing with as opposed to working and trying to manage a boss or manage people that you really don't like and being a part of on a team and all those kinds of things. So it's a different kind of struggle.
Yeah. And it's not for everyone, right? It's not for everyone.
Yeah. It's not for everyone. Because my brother never wanted to do anything on his own. He said, no, I'm going to do the corporate thing and I'm going to work and I'm going to work my way up and do. Cool. Good. Do that.
Yeah. And that works for him. And I think that's the trick. Like, get clarity of who you are and accept it. Mm-hmm. And then follow the steps that, are in your DNA. So if you are by DNA an entrepreneur, you'll be miserable in a corporate job. It's a fact. My husband, he used to be a military, an officer in the Belgian army. For him, being an entrepreneur, like, this is hell. Not knowing what's happening. There is no structure. And I'm quite extrovert and I see opportunities. And he's like, oh, we work together. So for him, when we have our morning meetings, he's like, oh God, oh no. Okay, what's up now? So I am having so many amazing, I think, then ideas. And it's like, no, like, we need to have a structure. We need to have our Excel sheets, everything in place. So again, it's accept who you are, I would say.
Accept who you are. So what big project are you working on now?
I think one of the biggest right now is in November 2022. So this year, there is G20 happening in Bali. And so this is big. So make sure you're there. And Bali, the world leaders will come together. And what I want is to unite first ladies. So my goal is to bring all these amazing women that are behind their husbands together, because I know they're doing amazing work for women and children in their country. And I want to leverage that by bringing them together. I already spoke with a few of them, but we're not there yet. So I hope during the summer we'll get more clarity how we will structure it, and then bring them under one organization and they will support each other in their initiatives. So that's one of the biggest projects, and I hope to launch it in G20 in Bali.
Oh wow! You could not have chosen a better location for that, because the mindset of Bali. I never forget. I flew into Bali early one morning, coming from Hong Kong, and I was going to be there for a week. And I literally got a beach chair, sat out by the water, and I sat there all day. No phone, no laptop, no nothing, and just.
Be.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Pre-COVID, we were organizing every year in October. I would organize mindfulness retreats for entrepreneurs, like couples. So it's like men, women, doesn't matter. But for those who want to disconnect, like you did, literally, and create a vision for their life, not only for the business, but for their life. And that's big. So you need like more than a week for that. So in the morning, we would have our yoga, meditation, and workshops. And then in the afternoon, we would explore the island and we'll have adventure, and we'll be jumping from the waterfalls, swimming with dolphins, and just be in this paradise. And we went for that to the north of Bali, because the south is quite, populated, but the north is like nobody goes there. It's too far. It's a 3.5-hour drive. I mean, the roads are terrible, but it's worth it. So I hope you will be joining us one day there. I plan to extend the G20 event for another week of mindfulness, because I really believe at the end about conscious choices. And I'm into spirituality when it comes to mindfulness and meditation. This is the only way that keeps me sane, I think.
Yeah.
So we all need our moments to disconnect.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but we need to find out our mindfulness, because your mindfulness might not be what turns me on or calms me down.
True.
Because everyone has a different kind of mindset. Everyone is dealing with different things. And maybe sitting on the beach may not work for you, but maybe you have something else that you do. Maybe it's swimming. Maybe it's whatever it is.
Whatever that works for your brain to like shut it down, do it.
Yes, exactly.
Do not hurt other people while doing so, but do it.
So how could people find out about the G20 summit? Is there a website that's up now, or?
Not yet, Ron. It will be in a week or so. So I'm now finalizing today at 5 p.m. Porto time. I'm having my conference call with our partners in Bali. I think that would be, but again, we organize different events investment events in July in Portugal. So I think that's on the website. End of September, we're back in Dubai. I hope you'll be there. We have also an interesting event for investors and founders, connecting them together. And after that, we go to Bali, November. But that is not yet live.
You have a great life.
Yeah.
You're an international traveler, business opportunities all over. Well, you know what? Thank you so much for making the time. What time is it in Portugal now?
I think, well, let me check. I don't know. It's like, it's 2 o'clock now, 3, I think. So
3. Okay, so you're a few hours behind the Dubai time. But thank you so much for being a guest. Great conversation, and we'll stay in touch. September, I just got an opportunity to speak at a conference in September, so I'm working on that as soon as I get off this and try and lock that down. So I will be back.
Please do.
Yeah, in September. So, but we'll keep in touch. So thank you so much. Hang on before we close. We're going to close out.
Yeah. But thank you for having me on. Thank you so much. And greetings to your audience. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.